Okay, so we have a range of research projects looking at how plants modify the soil environment and the consequences of that for soil processes like carbon cycling, nitrogen cycling, but also how changes in soils resulting from different plant species or changes in the number of different plant species, how that actually feeds back to influence the growth of those plants. So also how it affects their diversity. And a lot of that research is done in natural systems, so we work in high alpine grasslands in the Alps, for example, but increasingly we're applying the ideas that we have to manage systems. So the general idea is that characteristics of plants, crop plants for example, root characteristics, the way the roots are arranged, the chemicals that plants put into the soil. If we understand how they do this, we can potentially use that knowledge in order to inform how to best manage soils. In other words, how to use plants to actually garden the soil to make it more fertile for crop production. Well, we have a number of experiments. At the moment, we have a large experiment in the Yorkshire Dales, which is quite close to Manchester, to the north. And there, what we've been doing is manipulating the diversity of the grassland communities. So we're trying to simulate the restoration of plant diversity, but we're doing that in an informed way so that we can select particular combinations of plants with particular traits or characteristics, like whether they're fast growing or slow growing, or whether they have particular root structures or different chemical compounds that they produce, in order to try and see which combinations bring the biggest benefits to soil fertility. And I guess our main interest is in the accumulation of soil carbon, because soil carbon is central to climate mitigation, but it's also key to the fertility of soils. But the other thing we're interested in is what we call resilience. So it's the idea that soils can actually buffer the effects of climate change. So some of the research we've done, for example, is to demonstrate that changes in the structure of soil communities, the microorganisms, the animals that live in the soil, can actually alter the resilience of soils to extreme events like drought. So one of the ideas we're testing is that these high diversity plant communities that we're creating not only improve the recycling of nutrients in the soil, but also they increase the capacity of soils to buffer against climate change. So we've actually just set up a large experiment across England and also Scotland, from Devon right to the north of Scotland, where we've set up 90 drought shelters. And the idea is to prevent rainfall. So we want to create a big shock to the soil system. And then what we're going to do in the next few weeks is remove those shelters and look at how quickly the soils and the processes in the soil, like nitrogen cycling, recover after that drought. So we can then test how differences in soils, vegetation, influence the ability of these systems to recover. Well, I think some of the research we're doing is a long way off helping the farming community, but some of the work I just explained, for example, is directly related to current ways in which people manage grasslands. So a lot of grasslands in the past have been relatively species poor. They might just have 2 or 3 plant species, whereas what we're advocating in our research is that by increasing the diversity of plants and actually looking at the different combinations of plants in those grasslands, sowing different species in combination, you could actually bring benefits to soil fertility and their ability to buffer against climate change. So we hope that this knowledge will be integrated into the way that grassland farming in particular uses different plant species within those grassland systems. Yeah, I mean, to me, one of the most fundamental, or the most important thing in farming systems, or among the most important thing, is how you actually manage the soil. And I guess the science we're doing is looking at ways of managing the soil in a way that can maintain longer term fertility, but also maintain the yields of crops. And that's really the main challenge of the research that we're trying to do.